What is up, my bodyweight warriors? Welcome back to another video, another day of eating, starting off with the morning routine, which if you haven't seen, I'll link down below to my video for the FRC stuff, what I've been using lately as a recommendation from somebody called Ollie Frost, who I met the other day training with in Clapham. He has done the actual FRC course, and what he recommended was using basically this method of irradiation, something like a lacrosse ball like I've got here, or even just holding your hands together and squeezing. That kind of irradiation that you get from your hand, that activation, can translate into the other FRC movements. So I'm just basically squeezing a lacrosse ball as I've been doing, like the cars for both the shoulder and the hip. It's interesting stuff. I'm learning a lot more about this, and I will be sharing it with you when I actually figure out more about it. On a side note, have you seen the weather? Literally, the days that I choose to vlog for some reason end up being days like this, which is like bright blue skies. Every other day this week has been raining, windy, grey, horrible, usual British weather, basically. Breakfast is the morning smoothie. I've been having this now for a couple of weeks and I'm really enjoying it. Like, it's just a nice way, simplifies breakfast, takes about 5-10 minutes. There's only one thing to wash up. There is a boatload of calories in here. I think it's about 1,000 calories in this one because I've kind of taken the original recipe and then chucked some extra stuff in there. If you want the original recipe for this higher fat, lower carb breakfast smoothie, then I'll link it down below. If you want to see more in detail about what I've been putting into this lately, let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to share it with you. One other thing I like about this recipe, it's a meal that I don't necessarily eat meat in. Although I'm not vegan, I'm in the camp that you do need high quality animal products in your diet. I think that we generally over-consume how much meat we actually need to eat. So I think it's nice to have at least one meal where I'm not eating meat. I mean, it's still got a decent amount of protein and fat. Actually, let me get the calories up for this. I use MyFitnessPal, if you didn't know, to track calories every now and again. But this smoothie right here, 48 grams of protein, 73 grams of fat, 44 grams of carbs. That is a savage meal. Before I forget, it is Black Friday when this video comes out, and I have some good news. The bands that I was selling, the really light, these ones, those ones, that are really hard to find online, light resistance bands that I use for warming up, for rotator cuff work, for mobility work. They are back in stock for the Black Friday. Because I don't make that much money on them anyway, I'm just basically doing free shipping. Anywhere in the world that you want to buy one, I'll send it to you for free, and that goes for everything that's there. The t-shirts that I've got are also basically as cheap as I can make them, but there is very little left. So if you want to grab one, link is down below. I appreciate the support. Welcome to a segment I like to call Coffee Time with Tom. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee Time with Tom. Today's topic is motivation. This isn't really a new segment, I just want to discuss the topic of today's vlog and the title of today's vlog, which is all about motivation. This is from Noah McAllister. He asked, how can you make stretching and mobility more enjoyable? I want to do it, but I lose motivation because it is so boring. Firstly, Noah, how dare you? Secondly, I want to answer this question in kind of a more broader sense, but also some specifics about mobility. So first of all, mobility. I'll give you 2 tips. Number 1 is do it while you do something else. So for example, stretching is pretty basic. You can do in your sitting room or in your lounge at home whilst you're watching TV or Netflix. It's really windy today. So that's number 1, make it enjoyable by doing something else, listening to podcasts, watching Netflix. Number 2 is make it part of your training, and one of the best ways to build mobility is to use a range of motion. You either use it or lose it, and I made a whole video about using movement to build mobility. So if you build the requirement of range of motion into your training, it will make it easier to build range of motion. For example, doing handstands and doing bridge work to open up your shoulders can be worked into your training session, or doing multi-directional lunges to build up a wider hip range of motion. Build it into your training sessions. It doesn't just have to be some boring thing at the end. Right, on to motivation in general. And I want to start off this bit by asking you a question. What motivates you? Leave a comment down below. Join the conversation. Let me know what motivates you to do what you're doing. I actually did a video on this entitled Why I Do What I Do, or something along those lines, but I'll kind of reiterate it a little bit here. When it comes to motivation for training, I think ultimately it comes down to 2 important factors. Number 1 is self-awareness, and number 2 is understanding your why, which kind of also links into the self-awareness bit. When I'm talking about self-awareness, I mean understanding what makes you tick. What motivates one person may not motivate another person, and For this, I would recommend reading a book called Better Than Before by Gretchen Rubin. I read this book a few years ago and I actually found it very insightful about what I can do to make myself form and change habits that I have. In the book, she basically lists some archetypes and some ways to identify what might make you change habits more so than other people. So for example, I'm a very self-motivated person. If I want to do something, I just kind of do it. However, other people might need some form of accountability to do something. So for example, if they got a training partner, or if they joined a club, or if they join a class, it would make it much easier for them to commit to doing something and make that habit change. So it's all about understanding what makes you tick. The second point is understand your why. And although this ties into self-awareness, I think it's just an important point to make. Understand why you're doing what you're doing, because ultimately that's going to be where your motivation comes from. If you are doing something and it's being motivated extrinsically, so it's from stuff outside of you, for example, I want to do bodyweight training because I think it will make me look cool. Not that I think that is the reason that a lot of you are doing it, but just an example, it's quite an empty reason to be doing something. And it's the same reason that I didn't continue doing bodybuilding, because I was doing bodybuilding because I wanted to look a certain way, rather than that motivation coming from within is completely different. I guess kind of my final point to make is that don't just do something because you see somebody else doing it or you think it's the right thing to do. Do it because it is right for you. Do it for yourself. Don't do it for anyone else. And that is the session done. Pretty solid training session, upper body session. Handstands are back. Very sloppy still, but working on improving them. I can't wait to kind of build from the ground up. Something that I probably should have done a while back with the handstands, but now, because of this injury, I actually have to, and I'm really excited about doing that. However, that does mean it's time for some post-workout nutrition, which is going to be the recipe of today, and that is some banana and coconut flour pancakes. Let's get it. All the ingredients ready. I've also got some dried apricots and coconut water on the side as I'm cooking it for some extra carbs. Full recipe will be on my blog, linked down below, so go check it out if you're interested. Here's a quick montage of how I'm making it.
2,000 years later.
Hey, don't know if you can see me over the mountain of pancakes that I've cooked. So there is the pancakes. It's kind of falling apart now, and I may have slightly overestimated how much I wanted to eat. I think this recipe probably would serve 2 people quite comfortably. There's like 1,100 calories just sat there, but it just looks delicious. So I'm gonna eat that and then see if I can actually eat anything else today. It is now 7 o'clock. I've got some dinner, like we're having a family meal, so I'll just show you what we're gonna be eating. Also, if you do want this screensaver, I just got asked on Instagram, somebody wanted it, so what I'll do, link down below, I'll put this one in a few sizes, so if you want to have a different screensaver, then maybe check them out, description down below, along with everything else in today's vlog. But that is basically the day of eating done. The final meal, roasted vegetables with some roasted salmon. Just chuck the salmon into the oven about 20 minutes before the roast vegetables are finished, and you have a very simple meal. Macros wise were pretty good, but for the day, it was actually quite a big day of eating. It was like 3,000 calories, which I haven't hit for a while, but I've now got to do a couple of Skype calls, so I'm gonna end the video here. If you do want to grab that Black Friday free shipping around the world, link is down below, along with the link to the recipe of the day, to the screensavers, and basically everything else I've talked about. While you're down there, why not leave a comment? Let me know your thoughts, your opinions. I'd love to hear what motivates you. And even if you want to suggest any more topics for these vlogs, if you just enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up button and support the channel. But that has been it for this week, guys. Have a strong and healthy week. Peace.